A very good afternoon to all. Today we have Dr. Zahra Iqbal here with us, and she's working as scientific editor at BBA journal Elsevier. She's handling journals like BBA Proteins and Proteomics, BBA Lipids, and BBA Molecular Basis of Disease. Her connection with CSIR goes way back as she pursued her PhD in plant molecular biology, genetic engineering at CSIR NBRI under the guidance of Dr. Sameer V. Sawant. Later, she did her postdoc at Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Thailand. In 2022, she joined Elsevier as scientific editor. Her work revolves around overseeing manuscript workflow, engaging with authors, editors, and reviewers, and providing scientific and editorial support in the publication of scientific studies in biochemistry and biophysics. She is very forthcoming in connecting to CSI fraternity and conducting outreach programs to apprise about alternative careers in science. Dr. Zahra, we are glad you could take out some time from a busy schedule and visit CDRI for interaction with the students. So today she'll be talking about careers in scientific publishing, and we look forward to an interactive program. I request Dr. Zahra to please come up on the stage and address the gathering.
Thank you, Nirupa, for the wonderful introduction. You have made my work easier. Now I don't have to introduce myself. So as Nirupa said, my today's talk will focus on careers in scientific publishing. So last year when I came, a lot of you have a question that what a scientific editor is supposed to do and how I ended up being a scientific editor. So I wanted to highlight my today's talk on careers in scientific publishing. So I would now skip this part because Nirupa has told all of you about it. So very quickly coming on to BBA journals. So what BBA journals are all about. So BBA was the first journal founded by Elsevier in 1947. It had some big short names associated with it at that time, such as Carl F. Corey and Hans Krebs, who was known for the Krebs cycles. The articles back then were published basically in English, German, and French. So at that time in 1947, the editorial policy was pretty much the same as it is now. There were three main stakeholders, obviously the authors, reviewers, and the editors. So the author's manuscript was considered to be as much as their own as the work described in it. Reviewers were very knowledgeable and respectable contributors in the field who were able to point out the errors in the manuscript. The editors were supposed to see that the work described in the manuscript was within the province of the journal and was a genuine contribution of knowledge. So the paper was sufficiently well written and the paper did not occupy more space in written format than it was needed to convey the results. So the legacy of BBA is very rich and extensive. It's been 77 years and now BBA is a family of 10 journals. Covering all areas of biochemistry and biophysics. We have till now published 63,000 articles, and BBA also supports like 10 to 15 conferences each year, also giving travel grants and poster prizes to participants. BBA has also been a proud sponsor of Otto Warburg Medal for past 10 years. The collection of articles for 2024 has already been curated, which can be found online. So the big question, now what led me not continue with academia and join the publication industry? So when I joined my postdoc, it was very unfortunate, but in a couple of months, COVID-19 struck. It was a very bad experience for me, as it was for millions around the world. Labs were shut. I was not able to do anything. But when the restrictions were eased, of course, we were allowed to go to the lab, but with a lot of permissions and everything, my experiments were failing. I was doing a lot of overthinking, and I thought that I was getting bored of monotonous lab work like dishwashing, preparation of soil, etc., etc. At that time, I was also doing a lot of copy editing of my colleagues' manuscript. I was writing a lot of review articles. And I thought that maybe I should walk out and see what options are available for me in the industry. I felt like during my postdoc, I was working in a bubble and I had no knowledge about industry options. My research focus was narrowing and my inclination towards scientific communication and editing kept on increasing. So after completing my postdoctoral stint of 2 years, I decided to explore industry option. I contacted recruiters on LinkedIn and ended up being an academic editor at a very small editing company in Argo. I worked there for several months, then switched to Cactus Communication for another couple of months. And by that time also, I was also hustling to have my hands on Elsevier, Springer, other publishing houses. And eventually, I could connect with publishers on LinkedIn and filled relevant positions on Elsevier Workday and ended up being a scientific editor with BBA journals. So now, when I joined the industry, I felt that I'm liking working in the industry because of few reasons. So firstly, I would like to add a disclaimer. It all depends on the company culture, but the company culture at Elsevier is really nice. So I felt that I am doing something that is really compatible with my skills. I work directly with people at Elsevier. I collaborate with them, network with people, bring people together, which gives me an instant sense of gratification. Being a researcher, we all have problem-solving capacities, and this capability is very important if you work in industry because you are facing many problems on a day-to-day basis in a publishing industry environment. So you need to resolve them all. So at Elsevier, you have the time and advantage of learning and sharing knowledge with people around you. I think so the task division between the colleagues is very fair and manageable. No one is overburdened and overwhelmed with the amount of work they are doing. Of course, there's a better work-life balance. Uh, and the job security in a publishing industry is far more better than research. So I think so this were the main reasons. The job security was the main reason why I felt that the publishing industry is far more appealing to me than the research industry. And also what I felt in the publishing industry, the hard works and initiatives are appreciated more quickly than in research, because in research you have to wait for maybe years or months for the results to be the way you want them to be. So it takes a lot of time, but in publication industry, the things are quite fast moving. So let me tell you that what a scientific editor is busy all day round. So generally, a scientific editor is supposed to deal with a lot of emails from authors, reviewers, executive editors, publishers. The scientific editor is also involved in a lot of group meetings, strategy talks, editorial board meetings to come up with ways for betterment of author, reviewer, editor experiences. Then the reviewer, author, editor issues such as technical issues pertaining to submissions, paper proposals, conflicts, disagreements, innovations, and strategies are also dealt with the help of scientific editors. A scientific editor has also to maintain connections between journals, so any out-of-scope project, which is an ethically sound scientific article, is generally transferred to another journal. Content commissioning is yet another aspect which the scientific editor has to deal with. The scientific editor has to find experts in the area and invite them to write review for the journal. Also, a scientific editor is supposed to deal with erratums, corrigendums, and retractions. The scientific editor is supposed to prepare all the reports, do all the background investigation, and hand over the case to the editor-in-chief of the journal. So what all I just mentioned are my daily side hustles, but my majority part of the day is dedicated in assessing manuscripts submitted to the journal. So first and foremost, I see the intent and aim of the submission, which where I see that whether the article belongs to a special issue or it is a regular article. Next, I go on to see the manuscript sections for reproducibility or mechanism. Then, of course, in the text, I see the plagiarism. I see figure manipulations and duplications. After everything is checked for ethical concerns, I go on to check the author identity, whether the author is having an expertise in the area, what is the publication history, are there any retractions or something like that, red flags are associated with the author. Of course, if it is a revision, I check the rebuttal letter. Also, it is very important for the scientific editor to check all the declaration statements, whether it be optional or required. So for example, any study pertaining to human or animal must be approved by an official organization. If possible, approval number should be mentioned. Omics studies pertaining to big data, the data should be made available in public repositories such as Mendeley. The credit statement should be in place, which must state that which author contributed at what level in a manuscript. Also, the cover letter must declare that the research work is original and is submitted to one particular journal at a particular time. So what happens sometimes, extra smart authors, they tend to submit single manuscript to multiple journals simultaneously. there are systems in place which alerts the scientific editor that this particular manuscript is submitted to, is simultaneously submitted to multiple journals. And if this is the case, it is considered a breach in publishing ethics and the manuscript is rejected. So very quickly coming to plagiarism, which is a big scientific integrity issue and is defined as like the appropriation of others' ideas, words, or results without giving them proper credit. So I think so that reuse is okay, but always try to paraphrase and cite what you are taking from others' literature. Generally at Elsevier, we use Authenticate to check the textual similarity in a manuscript. Moving from plagiarism to figure duplication, so we have softwares in place that detects entire figure duplication. Entire figure duplication, such as here, this panel is getting duplicated with this panel entirely, but the software can also detect partial duplication, such as in this sub-image, the upper part of the image is getting duplicated with the lower part of the image, so that is also possible to detect. Also, there has been a new feature rolled where manipulations in Western plots can also be detected. So if you see, this was a figure that was published and the Western blot looks perfectly normal with naked eyes, but with the help of the software in histogram equalization filter, you can clearly see that the bands have been cut and pasted. So these kind of things are considered to be unethical. And what I suggest is always keep your raw data handy so that whenever a journal asks for it, you are able to furnish the raw data. Next, next paper mills are a thing which the scientific editors have to be vigilant about. So paper mills are profit-oriented, unofficial, illegal organization that sells authorship on manuscripts. How a scientific editor identify a paper mill article? So these kind of articles generally have a high textual similarity index. These are kind of a cookie cutter manuscript with same kind of results, graphs, tables. The experimental results are suspicious. They are not reproducible. For example, only a single cell line is used. The authors generally suggest a lot of authorship changes during revisions. And the corresponding author is having a suspicious email ID because they are generally authors who are not uploading manuscript from their institutional email IDs. So I think this is a very tricky situation for a scientific editor to deal with because the journals have to strike a fine balance in preventing the publication of paper mill article while ensuring that the vast majority of authors who are honest are not made to feel that their integrity is brought to question. All right, so moving from paper mill to generative AI articles. So this is 2024 and it is just the tip of the iceberg which we are seeing. These two articles have been recently published, which is very unfortunate, but this is like AI-generated articles. And if you see that the authors did not even care to change the text. If you read the management of bilateral iatrogenic, I am very sorry, but I don't have access to real-time information or patient-specific data as I'm an AI language model. And this is another study where the authors this is another study where the authors So this is another study where the authors did not even care to change this line generated by AI. Certainly, here's a possible introduction for your topic. So this is very unfortunate. It might have happened during the revision stages, and it got published. So this is something which the scientific editors and everybody on the journal needs to be careful about. So now I have told you all in great detail what a scientific editor is supposed to do. You all must now be having an opinion that whether this field appeals you or not. Maybe now I can tell you the roles which are open for PhDs in scientific publishing industry. So there are basically two roles. One is the in-house scientific editor, for which I have told you all meticulously in detail. The other role is the publisher. The publisher is the person who is responsible for journal portfolio management and development and manages relationship with external editors and society. So he's the person or she's the person who's doing a lot of networking. Publisher also negotiates contract with external editors and manages all finances of the portfolio. Publisher do market analysis and journal data analysis and deals with all the legal and ethical issues on the journal portfolio. So now how to find a job in publishing industry? So First and foremost, of course, PhD in a relevant subject area is essential to apply for the role. Any kind of office or admin experience, such as organizing a conference, helping budgeting, managing and getting your own grant will be a plus. Look out for job advertisement on publishers' websites. So for example, there's a workday for Elsevier. Also on recruitment agencies such as LinkedIn, job intermediaries like Glassdoor, Indeed, etc. Always try to read the job descriptions very carefully because different publishing houses have different job titles for different roles. Contact the professors around you or scientists around you with editing experience. Also try to contact company staff on LinkedIn and see if they can be of any help to you. So networking is the key in finding a job in publishing industry. So once you have found out that which job you have to apply, the next tomb to conquer is how to get it. So know what sort of role you are applying for and decide why you want it. What thrills you to get that role? This is very important. Tweak and adjust your CV according to the role you are applying for, and always accompany your CV with a motivation letter stating that what you can add to the team and what you can learn from the role as well. Always research company culture beforehand because toxic environment do exist in industry. Read reviews about the company on Glassdoor. The job should not just not match your expertise but should also match your personality, approach and thinking. Do your SWOT analysis beforehand, like the strength, weakness, opportunity and threat analysis, and be very honest during the interview because the interviewers are generally very trained people who know when you are trying to fake it or you are honest. Coming to the salaries and perks working at Elsevier. So Elsevier is an equal opportunity employer with average length of service of 9 years. I just not know one or two, but maybe a dozen of people who have stuck with Elsevier for more than a decade. Elsevier considers applicants without any discrimination on the basis of race, caste, creed, color, nationality, etc. Coming to salaries, so the salary is almost comparable to postdoc. Of course, the salaries might depend depending on your geography. One good thing about working in an industry is that the salary hike in Elsevier is annual, while it is not in postdoc or in PhDs. The salary might also be based on your performance. The employees are also entitled for yearly profit share, bonuses and pension schemes. There are a lot of legal vacations which are in line with the law of land, and you even have the options to buy additional holidays. The employees are also entitled for health and medical benefits, work from home options, access to learning and developmental resources, and well-being initiatives. Shared parental leaves, study assistance, and sabbaticals are also encouraged at Elsevier. So this is the career flow chart. So there is an unprofound opportunity of growth in your career progression ladder if you decide to be a scientific editor or publisher. So if you start with a if you start with an editing role at Elsevier, generally the ladder is like you begin with associate to scientific to senior scientific and to deputy editor role. If you start from a publisher role, so it is from associate to publisher, senior publisher, executive publisher to publishing director. You can find out more at the given links. So in summary, by now you all must have some opinions of what you want to do, but always understand why you want to do, what thrills you. And with this, I think I come to the end of my talk. And I thank you all for your time. And I would appreciate any questions from the audience. So I have an office, of course. It's generally a hybrid mode. I go to office, I work from home as well. So generally the policy is working from office like once or twice a week.
So any other student wants to ask question? Anybody in the audience? So they are overwhelmed with the information, but PhD तो करनी पड़ेगी और अच्छी तरीके से करनी पड़ेगी. So there's no shortcut.
So I was just wondering, so I mean, so how does Elsevier makes money basically? It's all the open source journals, right? The authors have to pay for the publishing or
So there are like hybrid journals, like subscription-based journals also, open access paid journals also. So it is up to the authors to decide in which kind of a journal they want to publish their article to. Yeah. Thank you. I think so. I did my science for 1 decade. I definitely miss science, but I think so. Being a scientific editor, I am connected with science on a day-to-day basis. Maybe I'm not working on a bench, but then I am the person who is updated with science. So I think that's a good thing.
And so many journals, I'm not talking, let's say BBA, but many journals has scientific editors and subject editors, right? So how does these two?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
if
so
you would like to-
scientific editor is a person, when a manuscript is submitted to a journal, the scientific editor is a person who assesses the manuscript. Maybe different journals have different criteria. So for example, BBA has a criteria that a manuscript should have mechanism and should have novelty. So I'll be the person who will be judging a manuscript that it is having novelty or mechanism or not. And then if it is not in my field of expertise, I'll pass it on to the executive editor, who is a person having much more expertise in the area than I am having. So that executive editor will be deciding upon the manuscript.
Hi. I always wonder why in the publishing process, why the author or the content creators are never paid. Like the journals, they do charge a lot of money for subscription to institutes, or in the vice versa, for open access, the authors have to pay. Why is it not the other way?
So this is a tricky question. I think so. The publishing houses give a excellent platform for the author's work to be made available publicly. So this is something which is which the authors should appreciate. But it is, yeah. But if it is open access, it is publicly available. Yes. Yeah, but I think so. It is an industry in which everybody is appreciated, everybody's work is appreciated, and the work is thoroughly scrutinized. Yes, I completely get that point. That he's asking that why not the authors are being paid to publish their work, which is kind of a see, these organizations are profit oriented organization, all the publishing industry, and we have to do good businesses also. And I think so this is the way the system has been set up. The authors are given few advantages, like these journals, these publishing houses are organizing conferences, they are giving students travel grant, poster prizes, etc. Wherever we can step in and help the authors, we always do that.
as I understand that the chief editors or in the subject editors are honorary positions.
Yes.
So the scientific editor is actually a full-time
Yes.
position, right?
Yes.
So that's the
Yes, that's correct.
difference.
Yes, that's correct.
So I have a more of technical question. So once if we publish the paper and we actually give copyrights to the journal, but can we share that article in our LinkedIn profile and in our Facebook
Yes, of
profiles?
course.
And we can, so because not all the institutes would have open access to our article because we are not paying for that
Yes.
open access fee. So we can share it on different
Yes.
social media platforms. So
Yes.
that is allowed.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. So we can share it in our LinkedIn profile, Facebook,
Yes.
whatever social media profiles
Yes.
that we are,
Yes.
Twitters, so that it can reach the masses. And of course, earlier in former times, people used to request for the PDF reprint. That if you have published this art, share the...
Generally on ResearchGate, many of the authors get a request from the readers that maybe they can share their PDFs with them. So this
So
is
in
generally,
ResearchGate we do, but
Yes.
on the other so-called newer platforms, we are
Yes,
allowed
I
to
think so,
share.
yes, that won't be a problem.
That should not be a problem. Yes.
Transferred from bioarchives to any of the Elsevier journals, or
I'm not sure about it, so I am. I think so. That is pretty much doable, but then you need to have a journal in mind beforehand in doing that.
now most of the journals are coming on format-free submission.
Yeah, we are also. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Sometimes it becomes very confusing, you know, if we have submitted in Willy journals and we put the manuscripts in Authoria as a, you know, an open version of it. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to put it in bioarchives, the same, and then
You guys are talking about formatting thing.
not formatting thing. So we have put our publication in open platforms, right?
Mhm.
So like Authoria or bioarchives. So does the journal have problem that already put it in the open?
So generally, when an article is submitted to any of the preprint websites, when we do this similarity checking, that the article pops up that hey, this article has been uploaded into this preprint website. So I think so that when textual similarity is considered, that is not considered a problem, that your article is already considered in the preprint platform. So if you are submitting to a journal and your article is already in a preprint form, I don't think so it's a problem.
So if the author is, after publishing, if the author is putting it on social media, won't it be considered as a copyright violation?
But if you have published it, why would it be considered a violation?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mm, mm. But I have read it somewhere that it's a copyright violation that authors cannot. I just wanted to clarify that question that she
I
asked
don't
it.
think so, because once you have published in an open access journal, if it's an open
Not
access.
open access. Not necessarily. Yeah.
Okay.
Open access is already there in the open domain, right?
So maybe to be safe, on the safer side, you can just share your abstract and the title on the social media platform. And if then somebody asks you, you can share the PDF with them over email or something like that. Yeah.
how often you waive the publication charges?
That is actually out of my domain. That is something which the publisher and the publishing director has to do. And it is a journal-wide policy. It's not for just one or two authors. It depends sometimes on the geography. The underrepresented countries are given some kind of waivers, but that you have to check with the journals, of course.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, generally, one thing which I faces during communicate my paper is that in PhD we work on a single topic or one or two topics. So when we just communicate the paper and write the introduction and the discussion part and even the material and method part, most of the things become similar from the our previous paper or other papers. So why there is the plague thing is applied in the English portion and the material method part? Why not it is mandatory that our concept should be novel, what we want to be show in our research, why it is more focused in the English writing, so that sometime it happens we manipulate the sentence in such a way its meaning changes sometime. And most of the time it happens in the material and method parts.
Okay. Okay. So to answer you that, I get a lot of queries from authors asking that, hey, is there a hard and fast percentage for this textual similarity index? So let me tell you that there is no hard and fast percentage. What an editor sees is that there are not large chunks of text that is repeated in a manuscript, especially in results and discussions. And if in material methods there is some kind of textual overlap, if it is properly cited, it is generally not a problem.
Generally we cited everything, like we give the reference for every sentence, but even that we found after like communicating the paper, we found the reference like comment from the reviewer or the editor that you have this much of the plague and change. So why it is focused on the English basically? Because it is not possible same sentence we mention in how much ways like that.
English is actually the common communication language, and if you think that if there are this is how actually we are supposed to do. If there is no large chunks of text being repeated in your results and discussions, and of course in your conclusions, then it is considered okay. And it's very surprising to me if an editor has written to you about the material and method thing. If you have cited it properly,
Yes, ma'am.
it's
It
kind of a
happens so
surprising
many
to me.
times.
Yeah.
What happens actually is that sometimes we are not good at writing rebuttals. And this is also very important during your research training, that yes, you've got the comments from the reviewers, and I think it is important that we prepare a point-wise reply before just submitting. Ek rejection aaya, we put it to the other journal, then we put it to the other journal. It's better that read the comments from the reviewers, prepare a point-wise reply, and then you will also get clarity. Some of the questions that reviewer has raised might be useful for you, and some may not be useful for you. But at least once you prepare a point-wise reply, you will get a clarity which one has to be addressed immediately and which one you have to write a rebuttal.
Of course.
So usually, Zahra, what are the rebuttal chances? Like if a manuscript is rejected, and then we find that the reviewers' comments, some of them are doable and some of them are impossible. Because sometimes they just give impossible suggestions
You
to.
can always write to the editor and explain your situation.
Okay, and then depending on the response letter, then the
yeah,
editor
yeah.
will decide that
Yes,
whether
you can resubmit your manuscript or not, but you can always try to write a rebuttal letter to the editor explaining your situation, that maybe the authors have asked you an enormous amount of data which is not feasible for you to perform at a particular time because of some funding constraint or etc. You can always go forward and explain your situation and have a communication with the editor of the journal.
Yeah, thank you. Any?
Talking about plagiarism, so how much self-plagiarism is allowed? In the sense, let me complete. So I'm working on a similar field, right? And I have very similar materials and method. It's just the result is getting renewed in the next version of the paper or the next paper. So obviously a large chunk of materials and method will be the same, right? I am not going to reinvent the wheel. So how is that looked at when you put through the plagiarism?
If I was the editor of your paper, if the material and method section was properly cited, it would not be a problem for me. What I will see is the novelty in your paper, and if there is no large chunks of textual similarity in your result discussion and conclusion section. This is generally what I am supposed to do.
So it's an editor's call, basically.
Yes, yes.
As far as manuscripts are concerned, when you have the material methods, then that should go in supporting part, right? Or it comes in the manuscript.
It comes in the main manuscript because we have a lot of materials and methods. So main materials and method will come in the main manuscript. We do have some supplementary materials and method which comes as a separate file. So we have to run a plagiarism on the main thing, but we usually people exclude the methods, material and method section. Because in biology we write big papers with big discussion, with big conclusion. So I think the chances of plagiarism comes. Yeah, but then you have to follow the length of the paper, because if it's a short communication, then you are lucky, but writing small papers is also very tough. I mean, writing a Jack's communication is very, very tough, that you want to two-page article and all these things. Yeah. I want some student to ask, please. This forum is for you. You want to ask?
So generally, kind of certifications are given to reviewers, and apart from that, in terms of monetary advantages, of course, there's nothing like that. But generally, the reviewers are given kind of certification from Elsevier.
Yeah. And actually, since our field, I mean, our and your field, we are all in the same fraternity, requires constant learning, right? And in this way, we learn when we review, as a reviewer, when we review the manuscripts, we learn a lot of new things, not a lot of new experiments. And during that process, it helps us to improve our science as well. So this is, as Saurabh said, is a contribution to the fraternity. And
So ACS has an option of, Publon, or you can, so your contribution as a reviewer is recorded somewhere.
Okay.
So is Elsevier has something like
Not
that?
I am aware of. Maybe I can get back to you on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it is often linked with your ORCID ID.
this
Yeah.
one is with Scopus ID, and your Scopus ID score improves, I think. But you can just cross-check that
Yeah.
how it goes. Anyone else? Yeah.
Or something is like the part-time things also. If somebody want to engage in the research and also want to be in touch of this field as well.
You
is
can
there any
always
option?
mail and check with the publisher for the journal you are applying to, that whether it's a part-time or a full-time job. I think so the options for both of them are available at Elsevier.
Okay. So is there any option to work in this field along with some other jobs as well, or other own startup like
Of course,
things,
if it's a full-time, so no. But if it's a part-time, so you can always discuss this with your publisher and make him or her aware of the situation, and you can always talk about it.
So, anybody else wants to ask any question? So, just to summarize again, you have to do good science first, and you have to read your articles properly, and you have to also proofread the articles of your friends and your lab members. That is the first training.
Yes.
Is it
Yes,
correct?
that's correct. Being a scientific editor, you have to copy edit, you have to proofread the articles of your colleagues. Anybody who's submitting manuscript, any manuscript going from the neighboring lab, just pull in your leg there and, hey, maybe I can have a look at your manuscript, and just go ahead and copy edit, and ask your friends also to copy edit and proofread your manuscripts as well. So
Because if you read the manuscript and proofread the manuscripts, you will get, so these are the steps if you want to have career in this field. So you have to be scientifically very sound.
Small query on numbers.
Yeah.
So let's say BBA, how many people it hires annually?
how many people it hires, it actually depends upon the workload as well. So it's something which the higher up in the organization decides, and it depends on the number of submissions we are getting. Oh, roughly, I cannot give any idea about it. It actually depends on the number of submissions we are
Like
getting.
I say, CDRI has 100 scientists. How many people are there at?
Basically, you can give us statistics for Indian office, Elsevier office in India. Just Gurgaon office or Chennai office, how many people are there? Just to give an idea.
At Elsevier, I think so if you look at the entire Elsevier, it's a 10,000 plus organization. I'm not sure about how many people are working in each of the offices, but it's a very big organization with 10,000 plus people. And I'm talking about these 10,000 plus people in every aspect of the job. Like people are also scientific editors, there are publishing directors, there are SVPs, everybody included.
So I think Elsevier has office in Gurgaon,
Gurgaon,
Bangalore and Chennai.
Bangalore and Chennai in India, and the headquarters in Amsterdam, and also in Boston and Oxford.
Yeah, so different places. Yeah.
Ma'am, what are the waiving options for a country like India, which is no more a developing country? It has removed from the developing countries. So we have now, we are rejected from all the waiving options. Yeah, it's kind of.
You always have to check that to the journal which you are submitting your manuscript to. Always ask the editors of the journal beforehand. Before you submit the manuscript, you can write to the journal and ask that maybe you are having financial crunches, and if any waivers are offered to you or not. That depends. That actually depends. Sometimes you might not have any at all, and sometimes you may have like 10-20%, but that depends.
I don't see any further hands. Thank you for joining, and if you have any questions, we can just compile the questions and then forward to her. Zahra is very approachable, and she would like to connect back and help people so that, you know, they can look for different or explore different possibilities of science careers. And yeah, needless to say, thanks again for coming here and, you know, giving your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you.